Welcome to the shiur tonight. Once again, tonight's shiur on Parshas Chayei is being sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Avram Friedman in memory of Yoshua ben Zev, Mr. Friedman's father. His neshama should have an aliyah, and we should all have the opportunity of learning Torah in his zechus. Thank you very much. And anyone else who'd like to sponsor a shiur, more than welcome. We're beginning with Parshas Chayei, and in order to do that, we want to take a look at the first pasuk of Chayei. So we're going to share the screen right now, and you're going to see the pasuk. Here it is. Can you all see this pasuk, ladies and gentlemen? Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rabbi, could you do me a favor and mute because there's a lot of static.
Yes, I'm about to do that.
Thank you so much.
I'm about to do that. Okay. We are going to mute everybody. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So now what I have to do is I have to mute everybody. So give me a moment. Where is my mute button here? Screen sharing, participants. Okay, good. Now we got it. Okay, everybody is now muted. If you want to unmute, you'll have to do it on your own. Okay. I'm going to do this down here. Okay, we are beginning Parshas Chayei. I want to go back to the beginning of Parshas Chayei. We're going to see it right now in front of us in the first pasuk of Chayei. Here it is. So everybody's familiar with the first pasuk, a very interesting pasuk. Vayiyu Chayei. Now, a literal translation of Vayiyu is "and they were." What was? So the pasuk is telling us Vayiyu Chayei, and they were, meaning the years were. The life of Sarah was, and it's in the plural because it's talking about the years, Me'ah Shana, 100 years, the Esrim Shana, and 20 years, the Sheva Shanim, and 7 years. Everyone immediately notices the most unusual formulation of the words. Why did it have to say Me'ah Shana, Esrim Shana, Sheva Shanim? Why couldn't it just say Vayiyu Chayei Me'ah ve'esrim ve'sheva Shanim? And then it adds 3 words, which of course are totally superfluous. Shnei Chayei Sarah, the years of the life of Sarah. People should not make a mistake and think that Shnei Chayei Sarah means the 2 lives of Sarah. Sarah only had 1 life. We all only have 1. The word Shnei here means Shanim Shel, the years of Sarah. So first off, we have to be aware that there's a problem here with the language of the extra word Shana, Shana, Shana. And Rashi doesn't allow it to go unnoticed. And so Rashi says right off the bat, the very first pasuk, Lekach nichtav shana b'chol klal uklal. This is the reason why it says the word shana at each and every juncture, by each and every statement. 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. Now Rashi is about to give us an answer, people. When I read the Rashi and we get the answer, I want you to think to yourself, is there something wrong with this answer that doesn't make so much sense? And how do we make sense out of it? While I'm telling you the answer, I want you to think of a question that is going to be bothering you of why this might not make as much sense as you think it should. And here's the answer. Why? This is the reason why Shana is written on each and every topic. Lo malacha, to say to you, shekol echad nidrash le'atzmo, that each word Shana is to be judged by itself and explained by itself. In what way? Bas kuf kebas chaf lechet. When she was 100, she was like 20 in terms of sin. Watch the next one. Ma bes chof lo chot'ah. Just like at 20, she didn't sin. Shaharei eino bas onshin, because she was not subject to punishment. I'll explain that in a moment. Af bas kuf below chet. So at 100, she was without sin. Just like at 20, she was without sin. So at 100, she was without sin. The last sentence is, ubas chof kibas zayin liyofi. And she was as beautiful at 20 as she was at 7. Are your wheels turning? Do you have a question about the comparisons that Rashi is making? If you do, let me hear from you. What do you think is problematic in the words here of this Rashi? Do you have any idea? All right, I'll have to give it to you. If nobody wants to pipe up, you'll have to unmute yourself in order to do it. Listen to this. Rashi is telling us that when she was 20, she was as beautiful as she was at 7. And when she was 100, she was as innocent as she was at 20. Which of these numbers would you say is more innocent? Which number of these numbers is the most innocent of all?
7.
7. Of course, 7. Why doesn't it say that at the age of 100, she was without sin like 7? 7-year-olds aren't sinful. It's impossible. They're underage. They can't be sinful. You want to talk about no sins? Give me a 7-year-old. And by the way, in the colloquial universe that we live in here in the year 2020, I don't want to go into detail, but ladies and gentlemen, is 7 the age of beauty, or is 20 the age of beauty? You know, if you want to say she was
20.
Beautiful, give me the age 20, where beauty asserts itself. At 7, what are you talking about beauty? A 7-year-old is a 7-year-old. And yet, Rashi explains it this way. Now, first I want to give you a little insight over here. Here is something to think about. Do you see the word Vayihiyu? Take a look at that word, Vayihiyu. I want you to look at it carefully. Do you notice anything about that word?
It looks like Hashem's name.
Okay, it does come from the word Haya, Hoveh, and Yihiyeh. The root is to be, and the root to be, of course, is Haya was, Hoveh is, and Yihiyeh. So Hashem is Yud-Kei, Vav-Kei, is, was, is, and will be, because it refers to his omnipresence and his infinity. That's true. Anything else about the word Vayihiyu? Okay, the word Vayihiyu is
in between two verbs.
Palindrome.
It's a palindrome. Right. Right. You know what a palindrome is?
You spell it backwards and forwards the same way.
Take a look at the word Vayihiyu. Can you read it backwards and forwards?
Correct.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
Yes. What compelled Rashi to say that all these years were the same? Because the word Vayihiyu, and they were, is a palindrome. Reb Meir Premishlan points that out. It's a palindrome. Because no matter how you read the years of Sarah, backwards and forwards, they're all equal. All of them are the same. As we're going to see in the next Rashi, that Rashi says, Shnei Chayei Sarah, the years of the life of Sarah, Kulon Shavin Letova. All of them were equal in terms of goodness. Because of the word Vayihiyu, that is a palindrome, backwards and forwards. Okay, let's explain this Rashi according to the wisdom of Rav Shamshon Raphael Hirsch. who so beautifully tells us the following. Rashi is 100% correct. Rashi hit it on the head. He wanted to tell us the nature of sorrow. He even adds the words in the Rashi, Shaharei Eina Bas Onshin. She was not subject to punishment. We are used to thinking of responsibility in terms of age as being the age of 13 years old. We think of responsibility as being 13 years old, you know? But the truth of the matter is that 13 years old, you're responsible for your actions, but you're not punished. Why doesn't Hashem punish a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old? Why shouldn't the 13 or 14-year-old be punished?
Well,
Even though they're wrong. Why is there no punishment from Hashem against a 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19? No punishment coming to anyone between the ages of 13 and 20. Why is that?
How do we know that?
Because we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not punish until the age of 20 from the Dor HaMidbar, the generation in the desert. Because no one of the 40 years of wandering died for the punishment of the spies unless they were 20 when the spies went and voted to go with the spies. Under 20 was not punished. No one under 20 died. Only from 20 and up, and they didn't die till they were 60. The 20-year-olds only died when they were 60 because punishment does not come to a human being until they're 20 years old. Why did Hashem do that? Even though you're responsible, you don't get punished until the age of 20. Why is that?
I don't want it to sound as a curses, but there are kids who get sick and they die or whatever. Isn't that a similar punishment?
No, not at all. Someone who gets sick and dies doesn't mean they're being punished.
So what is the punishment from Hashem?
I'm not the one to answer that question.
No, I'm just asking if the Rebbe is saying that there's no punishment to a child under that age.
Right.
What
No heavenly punishment under that age.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that Bezdin can't punish, just that there's no heavenly punishment under the age of 20. And that's throughout Shas. You'll find this over and over and over again. Hashem does not take a person from the age of 13 to 20 and punish them for any of their averos. And it's capable at the age of 20 of wiping them all away and not being punished at all. And it's impossible for us to say, and I want to emphasize that Beth-El brought up a very important point that I want to focus on, and that is something that was said to me and to my class by none other than my Rosh Yeshiva, Reb David Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Levracha. And Reb David said, we know nothing at all about punishment. We can never, ever say, this person was punished. That person was punished. We know nothing. Absolutely zero. Think about it. Rav Moshe Zatzal lost a son. Are you telling me that he was wicked? He was a tzaddik. Reb David Zatzal lost a son. One of my friends, Moshe Shmuel, Shmuzi. You're telling me Reb David was being punished and Shmuzi was being punished? Reb David lost a granddaughter. The daughter of Reb Shmuel Vishel is Ozain Gesund. Are you telling me that he's being punished? Chas v'shalom. We know nothing about punishment. First of all, we know there's Tzaddik Varalo and Rasha V'Tovlo. That's not for tonight. Let's go back to our pasuk. But what we see from here is that Rashi openly states, Hare Eina Bas Onshim. Up until 20, she's not punished. I want to explain why. Because I don't want you to go away from the shiur without knowing why. We know that a 13-year-old is the age of responsibility, or for a girl, the age of 12 years old. But let me ask you something. Are 15 or 16-year-olds truly adults? Are they really mature enough to make all adult decisions?
No.
Or isn't it so that teenagers come and go in their approach to life, and that sometimes they fall to the left and sometimes they fall to the right side, and we don't know? And we ourselves, think back to our youth. Were we so perfect before we were 20 years old? I don't think we were perfect even after we were 20 years old. That's myself, but most of us are not perfect by the age of 20. But somewhere along the line, we begin to get a sense of responsibility. So the first thing we want to know is that in this Rashi, the Rashi is telling us that under 20, you don't get punished.
At the age of 80.
What?
I said, we're never very perfect, even at the age of 80.
I may have asked him, Rabbi Yehuda, we should continue. That's true. That's the job of a human being, to grow and to be better. But the point is, because teenagers are so easily swinging from one side to the other, and they're not set in their ways, and they didn't begin to think about what life really means, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very, very soft with them and gives them an opportunity. I'm letting the string out. When you're 20, start maturing, think a little bit more about it. So the first thing we notice is that there's no punishment until the age of 20. Now let's analyze the different stages according to Reb Shamshir Furlers. Number one, he says that when she was 100 years old, she was like a 20-year-old without sin. That's a chiddush. A 7-year-old not to have sin is obvious. She hasn't got the Yetzer Hara yet. But a 20-year-old in those days and a 20-year-old today who is capable of resisting the world at large that says, go for it, do what you want. And that 20-year-old gets full control and exerts her own free will to follow the way of Hashem. That is a chiddush. And when she can carry that out from the age of 20 to 100, now you're talking about a very special person. And when it comes to beauty, the beauty of the Jewish people is the innocence of the 7-year-old. For a girl to be as innocent at 20 as she was at 7, think about it, people. Think about it. In our day and age, who is as innocent at 20 as they were at 7, except for the B'nai and Benos Torah? The B'nai and Benos Torah are as innocent at 20 as they were at 7, because that's the nature of Abraham and Sarah. And Sarah was as innocent at 20 as she was at 7, in the sense that she was innocent of the vicissitudes of the world and the pathways of the world at large that sought by the age of 20 to have self-aggrandizement and gratification. And Sarah was willing to forego those things. So we just explained this first beautiful Rashi and in the pasuk of Chayei Sarah. And now I want to go just a few minutes on the next Rashi. This is amazing. Rabosai, look what it says here. The years of the life of Sarah, Kulan Shavin Litova, all of them were equal in goodness, to goodness. They were all equal in goodness. Now let me ask you, we know a little bit about Sarah's life. Is there anyone here who would go and say that Sarah's life was good all the way. Only the best things in the world happening to her. Only living the most ideal, wonderful life in the world. Is there anyone here who could point to Sarah's life and say that that was the case? Not at all. It would be impossible just from the reading of the Torah that we have till now. First of all, she didn't give birth to the desired child that she so wanted and pined for and prayed for till she was 90 years old. Are you telling me that from the age of 20 till 90, when she yearned for that child, they were all good years? What happens when someone is dealing with infertility? Are you telling me that when they go 10 years without having success, that all of a sudden you're going to say those were 10 great years? And yet the pasuk here says all of them were equal in goodness. Another thing, how many wonderful Beis Yaakov girls are taken from their husbands into the king's palace for the sole purpose of immorality? Can you say that that's good? If you had to go through such a thing, would you call that good? All her life was good? Impossible. How can we say they're all good? And even when she did give birth, and she had a son, Yitzchak, and she saw Yishmael trying to kill him, go take a look at Parshas, at the Parsha before this, in Lech Lecha and in Vayera. Yishmael wanted to kill him. He wanted to kill Yitzchak. You imagine the pain of the mother watching and telling me all this is good? So what are we learning from this? What do we see from this? The Torah is testifying to an unbelievable statement in the Gemara in Brachas Handaf Nun Daled. The Gemara in Brachas Handaf Nun Daled says, Kishem shemevarchim al hatova, kach mevarchim al hara. The same way we say a bracha for good things, we say a bracha for bad things. Bad things. What's the point of the bracha? Because we recognize that no matter what happens.
That's why we say Boro dynamics.
Yeah, Boro dynamics.
Right, exactly right. Yes, that's the reason behind that bracha, 100%. Because even that is tova. We don't see it. We don't know it, but it's true. Again, I'm going to go to my Rosh Yeshiva, Reb David Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, and Reb Moshe. I did not know Reb Moshe lost a child. I could never tell on his face. I could never tell in all the times I spoke with him. I could never tell in all the interaction we had, in all the smiling and laughter that I witnessed when I sat at his Simchas Torah table, when I sat at his Purim Seudah, and we sang together, banged on the table together, spoke together and laughed together. I could never tell. I never knew it. I never saw it. I never heard of it until much later. And Reb David, if anyone saw Reb David recently, all the pictures, every one of them smiling away. Could you ever know that he lost a child? You never would know. Now, these are Gedolim, but the godless was in their midos and in the way they had betachan and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As Reb David once said, if you want to tell me a gadol is someone who knows Shas and learns it from cover to cover once a year, the overwhelming majority of people cannot relate to that at all. Can you relate to that? If I told you that Reb David knew Shas backwards and forwards, Baal Peh, can you relate to that and say, yeah, I could do that? I can't relate to it. I don't know about you, but I could never, at this point, see myself being able to do that. I don't think I ever saw myself capable of doing that. But if you tell me that Reb David was the kindest person in the world, and that he was willing to extend himself to help other people and to act as a calming influence on them, that's something I can relate to. I can learn from that. I can see that. That's something I could do. It's interesting. I just want to share something with you that a lot of people don't know about. I'll mention it now. Where we're speaking about the fact that we're saying a shiur in memory of Yehoshua ben Zev. I'm thinking about my own father, Rav Shlomo Zalta ben Moshe, and I'm thinking about something Rav Moshe Zatzal said at his Levaya, which is printed up, by the way, in a sefer. Rav Moshe said at my father's funeral, he said, you know, if a great rabbi passes away, so the whole community comes to the funeral and they shake their heads and they feel bad. We lost an anchor, we lost a rock, we lost a gadol. But they can't relate to being that gadol. But when a balabas passes away, and this balabas went to shul every day, and this balabas learned every day, and this balabas gave tzedakah every day and helped people who needed tzedakah every day, now the Jewish people have lost something of great value. Chaya Sarah and Avraham Avinu were people we could emulate because of their midos, because of who they were, because Chaya Sarah looked at her life as kulan shavin latova. All the years of her life, in her opinion, were all good. There's a lot more to say about this, but I want to go to the next Perek. And I want to begin by taking a look at how the next Perek begins. Okay. So we'll go first to the Pasuk. And the Pasuk in the Perek begins at the end of the first Perek. I'm just scrolling through so we get to it quickly. Okay. I don't want to go through all of it, but I just want to point out to you, it says at the beginning of this Perek, I'm not going to go into it. There's a lot of discussion on this particular pasuk too. And in fact, in the video that I made for the Parsha, you'll see I emphasize this particular word. The Avram Zakein Bo Bayomim, Avram was old, coming in days. Vashem Beirachas Avram Bakol, and Hashem blessed Avraham with everything. And Rashi makes a gematria comparison. Bakol, add it up. Beis is 2,
52.
Kaf is 20, Lamed is 30, is 52, and that refers to Bain, because the son is 2, Beis, and Nun 50, Hashem blessed Abraham with a son. In the video, if you'll take a look at it, I'm not going to repeat it now. Please go to the email. You'll see the video. I discussed the word bakol from the standpoint of Reb Levi Yitzchak or Baditchev. It's not for now. Hashem blessed Abraham with everything. He has to get a wife for his son. So who does he send to get a wife for his son? We all know he sends Eliezer, right? He sends Eliezer, his trusted servant. Look what the pasuk says. Now watch this. Watch this. Vayikach ha'eved, the servant took Asora Gemalim. But he's going to Lavan, to Besuel, to find a wife. For Yitzchak, the pasuk says he took 10 camels, Migmalei Adonav, from his master's camels. Vayelech, and he went to Padan Aram, to Aram Naharaim, where Besuel lived. V'chol tuv Adonav v'yodo, and all the good things that his master possessed, he took in his hand. Vayokam vayelech al Aram Naharaim el Ir Nachor, and he goes to the city of Aram Naharaim, to the city of Nachor, right? Does anybody here have a question on the wording in this pasuk? Is there anything you can leave out that would seem to not make a difference, or doesn't seem to be needed? Anybody have any ideas? I'll repeat the pasuk. And the servant took 10 camels from the camels of his master, and he went and he took all the good of his master in his hand, and he got up and he went to Aram Naharaim, to the city of Nachor. Well, what could be left out? And the pasuk would seemingly not change at all.
El Naharaim for Nachor, when he El twice.
Aram Naharaim is the name of the city.
Naharaim
Yeah,
for Nachor.
it's like Brooklyn, New York.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay.
No, that's not the problem. Okay.
Vayelech is mentioned twice. Why?
Okay. All right. That's cute. Very good. Okay.
The
All
city
right.
of Nachar.
What?
The city of Nachar.
Okay. Good. You're asking good. But that's not what I'm looking for. Okay. I want to focus on this. Watch this. Vayikach ha'eved asara gemalim. The servant took 10 camels. Migemalei adonov. From the camels of his master. Rabosai, which words don't need to be said here?
Oh, the master.
Migmalei.
The camels of his master.
Yeah,
Right.
of course.
Of course. Why doesn't it have to say that?
Where else would he take it from?
Right.
Exactly right.
He's a servant.
Exactly right. Let's take a look at the Rashi. Let's look at this Rashi over here. Okay? And we're going to see what the Rashi says here. Okay. Migmalei Adonov. Here we go. Here's the Rashi. Look at, so Rashi's bothered by the words Migmalei Adonov. What do you need it for? What do you need it for? Who else's camels is he going to take? He's a servant, first of all. Now, if you know anything about the laws of servitude, you know that a servant, an Evet Kanani, owns nothing. Everything the servant owns comes from the master. So it's clearly that he took his master's camels. Rashi makes the following comment. Now look at this Rashi. There's a hidden message in here. That's an unbelievable hidden message. Migmalei Adonov, from the camels of his master, says Rashi. Nikorin hayu. They were recognizable. The Torah is telling us it was his master's camels because his master's camels, Avram's camels, were recognizable.
Yeah, they were.
It's the Argamalim from all other camels. And don't tell me because they had 200 or one.
They were wearing masks on the
Oh,
mouth.
Shahayu Yotzim Mumin. Because they went out with muzzles. They went out with muzzles on their faces. Mipnei HaGezel, in order not to steal. How would they steal? Shelo Yir'u Bistos HaCherib. So they won't go and graze and pasture in another person's field. Look, he's got 10 camels. They're walking along. They get hungry. They're passing by Abdullah's fields, you know? And they pass Abdullah's field, and Abdullah's growing all kinds of alfalfa over there. And the camels pass by and stick their necks out and rip out a pound or two at a time of alfalfa. Do they have a right to do that? Of course not. Of course not. Now, let me ask you something. How many people are really, really careful about this kind of situation, especially in those days? Who's careful about this? Absolutely almost no one. Even today. People are very, very nonchalant about minor damages caused to another. Here's an example. Let me give you one example. It's like an unbelievable. I'm going to use a personal example because I'm faced with this. I'm sure many of you are too. I own a corner house, you know? I was warned before I bought it. If you like shoveling snow, you can buy a corner house. Otherwise, don't bother. Okay, so I warned my kids, don't buy a corner house. But we bought a corner house, okay? Every 2-3 months, I get a ticket for posters that are thrown on the ground and not put in the garbage can. Now, the posters are thrown on the ground at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm in shul. The ticket guy came around at 8:35 when I'm still in shul. When I come home, I can put it in the garbage. I can't put it in the garbage at 8:35, I'm in shul. I get a ticket for garbage on the street corner. Here's someone who walks by the posters. He doesn't like the idea that people put up posters. Of course, it's not his business. He shouldn't be ripping it down. It's like taking away the other guy's panos or whatever. But okay, he ripped it down. But why do you have to throw it on the floor? Maybe I'm going to get a ticket that's going to cost me money, and that's taking money out of my pocket. Where do you have the right to throw it on the floor? So people aren't concerned about this. They're not concerned. They don't worry about it. They just do it. And if you throw a candy wrapper on the floor, is it any different? If you let your child throw the candy wrapper on the floor, is it any different? I'll give you another example. Now people are more sensitive to this. But I remember years ago, they weren't. You went to the store and you bought a pound of marble cake. And they took the marble cake, put it in the box, and then weighed it. What's the problem?
The box.
You shouldn't put it in the box and weigh it. Of course not. Of course not. Here is Avram, who's so cautious about hidden
But they deduct the box.
Yes,
Oh.
today we're much more sensitive.
Oh, now they do. Yeah, now they do.
100%. Yes, today we are much more sensitive. Baruch Hashem. We've seen a tremendous growth in this area, but we've got to extend it even further. Look what it says here. They were recognizable because he would not allow them to go out and pasture in someone else's field because that would be stealing. Now, I want to share with you a story about Reb David Feinstein, Zal. That's written up, I believe it's in this week's Mishpacha magazine. Because my son-in-law sent me a copy of an article that he said is appearing in this week's magazine, but it's also been sent out over the internet. Reb David Feinstein would come to shul in the morning in the yeshiva and daven with the yeshiva. All the boys, all the rabbis would go down to the cafeteria and have breakfast. Reb David would walk to the pizza store down to the corner. He'd buy a Danish and coffee, and he would eat it in the pizza shop, the Danish and coffee. That was his breakfast. And he did this for years, day in and day out. Once in a while, he would go to Williamsburg, right over the bridge. One of his chevra would drive him because there was a bakery there that served very nice Danish, and he would buy for Shabbos, and he would have a coffee over there and then come back to the yeshiva. So whenever one of the boys, if David wanted a coffee, he would send the boy to the pizza shop to get a coffee and bring it back. One of the way the story is written, one of the nephews, one of the young men who married one of his nieces, who happened to also have been a chaver of mine in the Lower East Side, and Maya may recognize the name, Lenny Grayer, who married Rav Shizgel's daughter. So he went over to Reb David once and he asked him, and he said to him, Rebbe, I don't understand. Why don't you go to the cafeteria? They have coffee. They serve breakfast. How come the Rosh Yeshiva never goes down to the cafeteria and have breakfast? So Reb David opened the drawer of his desk and took out a piece of paper. And on the piece of paper was a contract. It was the first contract Reb David signed to become a Rebbe in the yeshiva. The Rosh Yeshiva, Reb Moshe Zatzal, told his son, Reb David, I want you to teach a shiur in the base medrash. I'm hiring you to teach a shiur. Here's a contract. And here is what your responsibilities are. And here is what you're going to be paid. And they wrote out a contract, and Reb David signed the contract. And he held on to that contract. And he showed it to Rabbi Grayer, and he said to him, notice, it doesn't say anything in the contract that I'm entitled to breakfast. So I wasn't entitled to it, and I can't now go get it because I didn't sign to get it. Do you hear this? Do you hear the level of honesty in this great Gadol Batorah over Yirah Shemayim? It wasn't a matter of another Tosfos, another Mashah, another Halacha. It was a matter of decency, of humanity, of Midos Tovos, carried to the nth degree. And that is what makes a Gadol. because he's copying Avraham Avinu. He's copying Avraham, our father, who even his camels he would not allow to transgress a moment of taking from someone else's property. One time, Reb Moshe Zatzal was asked, why is it that you teach the boys about Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, Bava Basra? Why do you teach them about two people grabbing a talis? Why do you teach them about Elu Metzias? These are the things that you lose. Why do you teach them that when they start learning Gemara? And he said openly, so that they get an appreciation of what other people's property is all about, so that they recognize not to infringe on a person's property. Because the first step in the future of the Jewish people is making sure that you don't infringe on a person's property. Here is Avraham sending his servant to go find a wife for Yitzchak. Now, when you send out a shidduch resume, or when you have your children send out a shidduch resume, forget which yeshiva they learned in, forget how brilliant they are, forget how much money the shver has. What are the midos? What are the behavior patterns of this person? Do they have midos tovos? Do they have good qualities? Because when Avram is wanting to build a nation, he's nation building. Finding a wife for Yitzchak is nation building. And when I'm nation building, I want good midos. Because if they don't have good midos, we can't make a shidduch. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care how many years he's going to sit and learn. If they don't have midos, it's not worth it. You got to have midos. You have good midos. Oh, good midos with high level Torah study, with high commitment to the performance of the mitzvahs. That's the greatest combination on earth. But the first step, midos tovos, good midos. And that was Sarah too. All of her years were years of goodness. And the way you build the Jewish nation is through midos tovos, caring for others' property, thanking God for everything that's good, taking all that Hashem gives you and looking upon it as being good. And as we said before, Sarah really had a tough life in so many ways, but she looked upon it as being very, very good. And when we go to Abraham, it's the same thing. It says, Hashem beirach es Avraham bakol. He blessed Avraham with everything. Did Avraham really have everything? No one has everything. But Avraham looked upon life that he had everything. And that hakaras hatov, that recognition of good, those midos tovos are the kind of midos that stand everyone in good stead. Baruch Hashem, we've studied a little bit about Parshas Chayesara. There's so much more. This is a Parsha extremely rich in ideas of midos, just the very midos that Eliezer was looking for a wife for Yitzchak stand out. And there's a lot more to talk about, but for tonight's shiur, we'll suffice it in what we've already discussed. I want to take this opportunity once again to thank the Zoldens, Reb Avraham, and his Eishes Chayil for sponsoring the shiur in memory of Yoshua ben Zev and the Shomas Ohav and Aliyah. We should be zocher to do mitzvahs and grow in our Yira Shemayim, just like Avram and Sarah. We should be blessed like they were, with a nation building that is filled with good midos, loyalty to Hashem, and appreciation for all the good that we have in life. Any questions? You can unmute yourself right now. Okay, I want to take opportunity to wish everyone a wonderful good night. Should all be gesund. We should be zocher to continue to have shiur like this on a regular basis. I want to thank you for joining with the shiur.
Koyach Rebbe.
Good. Have a good night, everybody.
Shabbos.
Good night.
Have a good Shabbos.
A good night.
Let's know, do what tomorrow morning you see.
But I still don't understand what the pshat is how do we know that they say that under 20 does not get punished from the Eibishter?
Because Chazal learned it out from the Dor HaMidbar that did not get punished.
Right, because of the, how do you call it?
Because there's spies.
Right,
Right.
Meraglim.
Right. That shows that Hashem doesn't punish on the age of 20.
But what is the punishment from the Eibishter? Chorus is the Eibishter.
Chorus is up to the age of 60.
From
Up to 60.
From 20.
From 20 to 60. No?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The person dies at 60. But when someone dies at 60, don't say they were punished with chorus. We don't know.
You don't know.
No, of course not. We know nothing. We know nothing. We can never look at anybody and say they're being punished.
Because you see that we say Gamza L'Toiva on everything.
Yes.
Even if you say Gamza L'Toiva on everything.
Yes. We know nothing. We have trust in Hashem. That's what we know.
And that's the Rebbe a secret? Does the Rebbe know?
I know less than everybody.
Yeah. I wish I was only the toenail.
It's okay. It's okay. I want to wish
Rebbe,
everyone Shabbos, everybody.
Excuse me, is shul open this week?
Yes, and Yetz Hashem.
With the chazan.
We sent out a phone call yesterday. If you're not